competitive is this field British GT? A single element that isn't right, you're not going to be challenging for a win, and I think that's what those guys are experiencing. Super dry line on the exit of Ireland there. You can actually see the dry part of the tarmac starting to come through. I think we've got a chance where we're going to see some pretty wacky lines. People looking to get their outside tyres on the driest bit of time.
To a few people in the paddock, there's been a few rumours that the track limit sensor at turn 4, the old hairpin, wasn't working. So people have been encouraging other drivers to exploit that, but maybe I've just alerted the race director to that, so maybe he'll be on that now.
Well, here's another big battle going on. Number 1, Matt Topham, ahead of Nick Jones, ahead of Mark Smith. And they're all queued up behind Mike Price, new to this McLaren, switching from the Mercedes and really liking
Howard in the Beach Dean Aston, been missing for a couple of rounds with work commitments. Good to have him back in, former champion. We know how fast he can be. Price running wide, Loggy gets it done. Engine in the wrong place, but he can get the drive out the corner done.
For your final track limit warning in this
in the background, Ravi Ramid is being warned about track limit offences. You see Sasha Kakat dive up the inside, oh so nearly wipe out Ian.
James, you said that it had all been quite sort of well behaved and calm until this point. As soon as they came across the traffic, all of a sudden it has ignited. They go either side of the Lotus, and Charles Dawson comes back at Simon Orange. Went straight back to the move. This was Richard Neary doing exactly what I said he'd do, going for every gap available. Manages to nuzzle up the inside of the Audi of Matt Topham, and then there was a bit of a schmozzle between Nick Jones, and I think that was Claude Beauvais, wasn't it? Yes, it was. Jones.
But it's just so hard to overtake in the dry around Alton Park.
So is Simon Orange closing, and they're having to sort of back out a bit so he's in some clean air maybe and let the tyres have a breather?
I think everyone's flat out, to be honest. Okay. I think it's just a pace issue.
Yeah, thanks, Addis. I've got to say, I was just talking to Mahiki, to Chris Emery, and also to Aidan Neat. They're very disappointed. Gearbox failure, transmission issues, but gearbox failure seems to be the cause of that one. That's
one for race control to look at already.
Yeah, so Sandy Mitchell put onto the dirt. There is the car that got the penalty last year, effectively, the car of Rob Collard. It's Hugo Cook at the wheel of it, and already in strife is number 37 McLaren. That's John Ingram, who's had a moment. He's getting going again, but the Jolt Racing McLaren has certainly had a jolt. Now, what's going on in GT4? We're up to turn 5, and I'm afraid the BMW is still ahead, so Jack Brown was telling you fib.
In these slippery conditions, what about GT4? It's still Sentry ahead, and the BMW looking a bit more sure-footed, perhaps, than the McLaren. Oh, and here comes Petrovelli to the inside of the old hairpin. There is contact, and around goes Dawson. No, the championship leader is off the road. So is Petrovelli, and Tilbrook got past the lot of them. Charles Dawson's championship leading car is off the road. It carries on, and they almost make secondary contact, but that was some mid-corner speed. So Templeton closes right in again, and the McLaren looks a little bit on edge right now. Brandon Templeton getting frustrated, and Richard Neary is off. That's the exit of Blanchimont as well. That is not a nice place to have had an off. Richard Neary's car is parked at an odd angle at the side of the road. Could this be full course yellow number 1 of the afternoon, I wonder? The car hasn't yet got going, I don't think. And of course this GT4 backing
its way through. Brandon Templeton behind Simon Orange, and we've got fire there on the Ginetta. Jack Mitchell, our GT4 leader. I think that's the exhaust on the right-hand sill. He will want to get out of that. That's not the nicest place to stop, but he's got the horrible decision to get out, and you can see why, because that cockpit is engulfed in flames. Expect a full course yellow.
Yeah, I was going to say at least a full course yellow, probably a safety car, because we're going to need 5. And the margin at the start of this lap was 0.293 of a second. And so far, the good news for Mark Warren, nobody seems overly worried about the flapping bodywork.
No, it's a light enough part where I don't think the scrutineers will be deeming that a dangerous piece of bodywork. The team will most probably just rip it off in the pit stop, I think, rather than tape it. Miller starting to struggle with the front of that Ginetta.
And Callum McLeod 6 with Alex Buncombe on the outside.
Yeah, look clean. There's a little bit of side-to-side contact, McLeod and Buncombe, but they've sorted themselves out. All the GT3s through cleanly. The GT4s also look like they've got away with everything. Gamble on the attack straight away round Island Bend. Bit of a break here into Shell, all the way down to second gear. Running the high line Gamble there in the McLaren, trying to get it in. Phil Keane, though, getting a sniff of it. That's always the problem when you're the attacker, but you've also got someone behind.
So you're quite right. Yes, they can now start to hack away, and what they've got to try and do is eat into 9.6 seconds. But whatever they do, you've got to add 24 on at the other end.
Yeah, you're bang on. I completely forgot about that, and that's a game changer. You know, 24 seconds is a huge amount of time on this grid. So, yeah.
But it's a stint 2 safety car.
Or a safety car. Was it the slightest touch of Ferguson? Was it cold tyres for Kevin Say? I have to admit, I missed that part of it. I need a replay to see, but the cars are so loaded at that point, it would only take a little breath from Ferguson's front bumper to send Kevin Say off into the scenery. John Ferguson slowing to the inside. Can't see any visible damage, but why was that? I can't see any reason, no yellow flag.
But now trying to get to grips with the Audi, which is a completely different car. It's mid-engine, not front-engine. It's going to generate its lap time in a very different way. Yeah, good to see that number 86 car is looking competitive. The Bridger Motorsport prepared Honda NSX, a real fan favourite car, that isn't it, the NSX, and a lot of people watching at home and around the track will be happy to see this car moving forwards.
I think people just love Japanese cars. I think that's what it is. And yeah, the Honda in the speed traps this weekend has looked fair, but definitely showed Petrobelli the door at turn 1. But other cars behind just looked like they didn't want to give up the outside line and just ran onto the grass. So chaotic start, but thankfully everyone's still in the race.
But what you can't say in a 1 hour sprint round Alton Park is that you've got time to fight back, and with a punctured tyre already in trouble is Andrew Howard. He's stopped on the Foster's link, and Andrew Howard's race effectively is over, because by the time, even if they can get it back to the pit lane, they're going to see what happened on the opening lap. Let's have a look towards the rear of the pack. Oh, it was Phil Keane, I think, getting involved with the Jolt McLaren, and that then bounced off the barrier, and we understand got a puncture and has retired. This is how Charlie Robertson took the lead of GT4 away from Jack Mitchell with a really brave move right round the outside. That BMW dwarfing the Ginetta, towering over it, doesn't it, with its more touring car style.
Only major change at the front of GT4, and Petrobelli looks like he's on the move as well in the 7 Aston Martin.
Yeah, Matt Topham's struggling, isn't he? Been overtaken by Dawson, by Andrew Howard and by Giacomo Petrobelli. Now Darren Leung closes in the 2nd Blackthorn Aston Martin. Again, it doesn't score points, but it is out there. Keep an eye on that, as right now we keep an eye on the battle for 3rd place, which again gets stuck behind a defending Ginetta. That's Josh Miller, the GT4 race leader, who is certainly not making life easy for the GT3 cars behind. They're side-by-side, Collard to the inside of Tilbrook, and Morgan Tilbrook will be furious at that because he gets hung out to dry over the curb. Dawson will get alongside too, and Dawson might even have a go at Collard. No, Rob slams the door in his face.
Him now, because this pace is not there in the 67 car.
Right, so now Petrobelli is moving himself up in GT3. So he was through the GT4 traffic just before we went safety car, and now he's starting to make some progress within the GT3 ranks as well. Collard, in the meanwhile, though, trying to edge away up front. The GT4 lead car remains number 17 McLaren, but you're looking there at Luke Garlick, who is currently 5th.
Stop, that end plate's probably pulled all the thread out, and so that isn't a tape job there, so they're going to have to live with that one. That's going to be difficult for the remaining 46.5 minutes.
It is, because it's important aero, and the car continuing, it lost round about 20 seconds or so on that last lap, so very time consuming, and it's dropped it to last outright in GT3, and as you say, 2nd.
Yeah, wet that exit curb is there. I think it just cost him a little bit of traction potentially. See the Mustang, the BMW and the Lotus all fighting here all the way around the outside for Gordy Much. Too much outside. You could just see the BMW was suggesting that is what was going to happen, and he ran him out of road to fight another day. Look how dirty that wind.
Attack as well from number 14 BMW, which is Brandon Templeton, new to GT Racing there. Look in the background, goes one side then the other, full send up the inside. Wouldn't think he was new to GT Racing.
No, and
Aidan Neat's on his toes, isn't he? He's the quickest of the Lotus drivers right now, and he's just put a move, as you...
Obviously that car led so much earlier on, fell off at the end of that first stint, can't see any obvious damage. A bit of an odd one there, because if you do brake a bit late as a driver, you're actually got the track width still to play with to stop going in the gravel, so I can't see any damage where he would have been left to sort of be pushed wide, so we need another look at that before I work out who to...
At the front of the field, another 1.6 back then to Alex Martin. So Martin, having got past Petrobelli early on, not really being able to get away yet from the Aston Martin, but that was an important move then for Alex Martin to make, because you know, he might have struggled once the race settled down to find a way past the Aston Martin.
you also don't want to be getting unnecessary damage and unnecessary penalties, but a move here going into Stowe, the Aston Martin trying to outbrake the Lambo.
Andrew Howard limping back to the pit lane. Have a look at Simon Orange, 4th. Bit of a wobble going through the chicane there, the Britain chicane, but he's closing, I reckon, back onto the top 3, and he's also coming under attack from Charles Dawson. So now we've got the leading 5 bunching up as they come down towards Hislops. To the top 2 in GT4, and if anything, having to work harder to keep these at bay, as again Anglis has a look up the inside, and they're all going to be caught before long by Phil Keane. Gap's come down for 2nd and 3rd, hasn't it now? So Kirchhoffer and Mitchell together, that gap had really risen, but Mitchell, don't forget, is still on a mission. He's a bit narked, I suspect, about being put onto the weeds on the opening lap, and he's come right back onto the tail of that McLaren, which has never...
You can't pit for wets until someone else or everyone does. Or there's a full course yellow. Nick Jones losing the Porsche down the Craner curves, has got it facing the right way and will be able to rejoin, hopefully just before the GT4 field comes through. But that's your illustration. Craner curves is easy flat in the dry. It is not dry. Last laps were well over a second off the pace. So this is getting more and more of a concern and issue as their contact under braking there between near...
Our team second in the championship on the outside line, looks to get the switch back and get the drive down the hill, but Charles Dawson hangs on.
P1 and P2 in the championship. This is quite important, and every point counts, especially in an endurance race where the points are bigger than a sprint race. So let's watch Eau Rouge. What's the dirty air going to be like this lap? That seemed flat. Maybe a little blend off throttle, but still, he's not close enough really to mount a challenge into Le Comte.
Sure, he's regular co-driver, but Patrick Cuyel at the flying fifth. A drive-through penalty for number 7 Aston Martin. Giacomo Petrobelli gets a drive-through penalty for the grid procedure infringement we saw. So the leader has a drive-through, and he's going to take it within 3 passings of the timing line.
Yeah, and he's going to take it on that third one because he needs to get that gap as big as he can to the GT4 so he doesn't have to come through them at the moment.
Cavers now comes up onto the tail of the number 77 Optimum car. So as they run now down into the left-hander of the first part of the S's, they're out of the same stable, those cars, different liveries of course, but Morgan Tilbrook's car losing a place, not being able to really do anything about gaining the ground back and coming under more threat. There's a McLaren and